Boom! Greetings from YouTubeville. Once again, Danny Savage, Draft Guru. If you like the video, sub and subscribe. It don't cost a dime. On an off week, it's still the best beard on YouTube. Today, we're going to be doing a mock draft for all 32 NFL teams. We're going to be going 2 rounds. So this is going to be a little bit of a long video, so bear with me. But it makes it fun because you get more names out there and you hear these guys' names play on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and you're like, yo, I heard about them. And it also, for all 32 teams, you get to see your team's needs and positions and who's available for them. It makes it fun. So each week from now until April, some weeks I'll do 1 round, some weeks I'll do 2 rounds. When we get to April, we'll be doing 7 rounds. Each team will be doing a 7-round mock draft. All right. Don't shoot the messenger. The 1 through 30 teams, 32 teams, it's going to change week by week with the records, win or losses. So don't shoot the messenger. All right. Round 1, we got the Patriots. They're picking Quinn Ewers, quarterback, Texas. That's a pretty pick you can't screw up on. And for some reason, it looks like Gerard Mayo is losing the team already. They're saying they're having a mutiny. But winning would cure that, and they need a quarterback. Round 2, we don't know what Cincy's doing with Jamar Chase. They got a kid, Luther Burden, pick 2 in round 1. Luther Burden out of Missouri. This kid is a man-child. He's a man amongst monsters. If it ain't him, then you're going to Takarius Davis out of Arizona. Those are going to be the 2 top wide receivers taken. It's a shame that kid Smith, the true freshman from Ohio State, he can't come out for like 2 more seasons besides this season, because he would probably be the first-round pick. Because there's a kid from Ohio State that's 19 years old that can play in the NFL right now. At a skill position, no. I wouldn't put him at an interior. Number 3, we got the Jaguars, man. They're a mess all over the place. They're just a mess. So we're gonna play it safe and give them Mykel Williams, defensive lineman, Georgia. He plays inside. He plays outside. He's just a one-man wrecking crew. The only problem is if you leave him inside, he's like 260. So, but if he can get away with that in the NFL, let him do what he does best, being a one-man wrecking crew. And the Jaguars pick him at 3. Number 4, the Browns are just tired of the tug master. They're tired of him. They're tired of the rub and tug guy, Deshaun Watson. There has to be something in his contract about bad behavior that they can get out of. There has to be. But the Browns are going number 4 overall, Carson, Beck, quarterback, Georgia. And I think Cleveland would go nuts if that happened, because they're just tired of Deshaun Watson. Because I believe that besides the Herschel Walker trade, but you see, I'm going to say this trade is worse because people want to mention the Herschel Walker trade, but the Herschel Walker trade helped build a dynasty. I mean, the Texans did get a lot of good players, but a lot of draft picks, a lot of capital, and they've used it to draft players, but it remains to be seen if we're going to see any championships out of them. But this, in my opinion, the Texans trading Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns has to go down as probably the worst trade ever in the history of the NFL. Number 5, we got the Rams picking, and they're picking a man-child, James Pearce Jr., edge out of Tennessee. The kid's 6'5", 260. He's just a prototypical 4'3" NFL defensive end, and he's going to step right in on that Rams defensive line and produce. The Rams are just having issues with wide receivers. Both of their wide receivers are hurt. They could go with Tetairoa McMillan at this pick, but they got a crazy amount of money invested in Cooper Kupp. They got Nuka, who's hurt, but I don't know if they're going to bail on both of them yet. They might look to get out of Cooper Cup's contract at the end of this year. Who knows? If that's the case, they would take Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. He's 6'5", but he's coming in 2 picks. The 6th pick overall, Carolina. Carolina is where quarterbacks go to die, people. And I hope it doesn't happen to this kid. And they just got to pick another one. What can they do? Cameron Ward, quarterback, the U. He's going 6 overall to Carolina. But Carolina they need a running back. They need wide receivers. They need more offensive line help. Carolina is just a terrible organization. Let's be honest with you. Number 7, the Titans. They're picking wide receiver number 2. But these 2 wide receivers, Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona, who's a 6'5" man-child, him and Luther Burden, in my opinion, are interchangeable. It's flip a coin. Who do you want? As like they say the Raiders did this past draft. Flip a coin. But they're my 2 best wide receivers as of right now. But it's very early, and a lot of things can change. And I don't even know if I did it yet. On an off week, still the best beard on YouTube. 8, we got the Dolphins. Dun, dun, dun. And, let's be honest, man. They got a clean house. Like their coach, look straight up nerd, straight up disaster. He looks like he went from like working at Walmart to being a coke dealer. And they got all this money tied up in wide receivers, and they need old linemen, but they got no quarterback, man. Their quarterback got mush for brains. He has oatmeal for brains. And like I said, I'm sorry, I've seen every one of his hits, and none of those hits made you go, ooh, oh, wow, that was a really bad hit. I truly just think he has a very thin skull to him. So they're taking Sheduer Sanders. And he would love that, man. He's in Miami Beach, and he gets to rap with Lil Wayne, drive around, party. But I think at some point that relationship with the owners and the GM is going to get old, dealing with the father prime time. I honestly don't think any GM owner wants to deal with the father, except probably Dallas. Number 9, we got the Jets. And unfortunately, the Jets' offensive line still sucks. And Aaron Rodgers moves around like old people hump. He looks horrible. So at number 9, they got the best tackle in the draft. Just fell to them. Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. That's great value at 9. Tyron Smith, who they gave an $18 million 2-year deal. They gave him, I think, a year for $1 million a game. So they gave him a $17 million deal. They might have gave him a year 2 option, but he's looked horrible this year. And like I said, now he's playing in the cold, and AT&T Stadium got more victims than Jeffrey Epstein. So Tyron Smith is down, and they get Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU, to step right in. Number 10, the Raiders. The autumn wind is a Raider. We all know the Raiders have no quarterback, none whatsoever. And barring them making a trade for one from now until the trade deadline, they're going to pick Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama. I am not a fan of this kid at all. I don't care. He's built like a fullback to me. I still have nightmares of him against Michigan in the playoff games last year. He crumbled under pressure, and I really don't care. And how did Alabama look? I know it's college football, but how did they look against Vanderbilt this past Saturday? 12, great value. The Cardinals are on the board at 12, and they're picking Travis Hunter, wide receiver / cornerback, University of Colorado. Imagine Kyler Murray, the midget, and he has Marvin Harrison on one side and Travis Hunter on the other side. That would be pretty scary, and that would help, I think, Arizona try to make some, grounds on San Fran and the Rams in that division. 12, the Colts. Yo, I said it last week. I've said it all year. Their quarterback is made of glass. Kid Richardson gets hurt every other play. He's made of like sugar candy. Anybody remember sugar candy? I'm showing my age. But even though he's made of glass and he gets hurt every other play, we're giving you the second best tackle, Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle, left tackle out of the University of Texas, who's good value at 12. Me personally, I see them moving him into left guard because he's a little bit on the shorter side. But whether the Colts leave him at left tackle or left guard, he's another big body to protect your quarterback who's made of glass. I think Richardson would get hurt playing pee-wee football. He would probably get hurt playing lingerie football. And I told you, I used to talk to one of those girls, bro. She was so fucking, excuse my language, she was so hot, but she lived on the West Coast. And I'm on the East Coast. We all know long distance relationships don't work. So now we have San Fran, how the mighty have fallen. But yo, this is only, we got 5 weeks and this is going to change everything. You know, it's going to change every week. Trent Williams is not going to be there forever. They're not. He's not. So San Fran picks LSU's right tackle, Emery Williams Jr., flip-flops him over to left tackle. And when Trent is done playing in a year, he slides in, or this year you put him at guard or right tackle. 14, the Giants, they're just so desperate for a quarterback. And I gave him Garrett Nussmeier. Shut up, quarterback, LSU. They're just so desperate, man. They got decent skill positions. They do. They got good wide receivers. They got a good tight end. They need a running back. They need help along the offensive line also. But Daniel Jones is just a joke, man. I mean, it makes you wonder, like dudes from like, let's say 40. How much would a guy like Richard Todd have made in the NFL? A guy like Phil Simms, who sucked. They would have made $200 million, these dudes. Guys that played 30, 40 years ago, Jim McMahon, they would have made $250,000. It's amazing how all these quarterbacks that suck are getting paid, and all these, you wonder how much would John Elway have gotten paid? How much Bradshaw? It's just sickening. At 15 overall, we got Philadelphia Eagles, and it's great value. You can flip-flop, but they're getting one of the number one corners in Will Johnson out of Michigan. It's great value at 15. Philly has to decide really what they're going to do with the defensive line. Are they going to keep it the way it is? Are they going to blow up the Georgia North connection? You know what I'm trying to say? I also think Philadelphia needs a linebacker, but I didn't think there was one there worthy of this position at 15. That was a little rich for a linebacker versus getting the number one or number two corner was a better value. It's crazy. When I do drafts, even fantasy drafts, I'm a big value person. I have to get my value. 16 of the Saints, they pick up Nick Scrouton, edge, Texas A&M. The kid has good size, good production. He just has to keep doing what he's doing, and everything will fall into place for them. Just go to the combine and have a good combine. Worst case, the kid's a later one. I don't see him getting out of the second. I just threw him on the Saints for an edge. Here we are now, people. 17, the Bears. We got our first running back going off the board. Ashton Jeanty, Boise State. Bro, the kid is a monster. No doubt about it. He has like double-digit touchdowns already. But he is playing against lesser competition. So let's just put that asterisk out there. But he is dominating against this lower level of competition. The only thing that I see maybe hurting him and maybe not seeing him go number one running back overall is his size, because this draft has some monsters at running back when it comes to size. And I've been preaching that all along. I see at least 15 monster running backs in this draft, and he's by far not the biggest. 18, the Packers were giving Jordan Love another weapon. We're giving Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State, who's having a monster year. I believe he has like 5 or 6 touchdowns this year. He's a straight speedster. His stats might tail off at the end of the year when he makes a business decision, and unless they get like a bye and out of the first 4 teams that make the playoffs, he might just, fake an injury and make a business decision, because that's what seems like about all of the Ohio State wide receivers have been doing the last few years. Number 19, it's crazy this kid fell this far. Abdul Carter, linebacker, edge. Linebacker/edge. He can do everything he wants. Harbaugh finally gets a weapon on the Chargers at defense. 20, we got Pittsburgh. Now we're going to give Pittsburgh 3. Pittsburgh got Pat Fryermuth. The other tight end out of Georgia, the big kid, 6'7", 270, Darnell Washington. He's proven basically to be nothing more than an offensive tackle in the running game. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. Pittsburgh plays a certain style of football where they like to run it and mash it down your throat. And so, leave him at that. But I also gave Pittsburgh the number 1 rated, and it's a toss-up between Colston Loveland from Georgia, from Michigan, and then Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Me personally, right now, I like Tyler Warren better, but he has a tiny bit better quarterback situation. But I'm giving the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20, Colston Loveland, because they got to get the quarterback situation situated. There was no quarterback to give them at 20, and we all know when you're not the greatest quarterback, the tight end is your best friend. So now if they keep Fields, he has Fryermuth and Colston Loveland to just dump off the balls to when he's in trouble. When he looks downfield and he doesn't see something wide open and he wants to be conservative. 21, great value, the Seahawks, man. They got Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame. Like I said, you could have flip-flopped this kid earlier with Howard from Michigan. So getting the second-rated corner at 21 is just a straight bargain. The Seahawks just got to figure out what they're going to do with their quarterback situation. They've been pumping picks into their O-line. They've had some injury issues, but they got 2 good running backs. They got Walker. They got Charbonnet. They got wide receivers for days. Could they use a tight end? Yeah, but they also got to figure out what they're going to do with Geno. Is Geno Smith really the answer? And the money that Geno Smith got is just crazy. I guess he can use all that money to fix his jaw that his teammate broke for owing him money. Next kid, we got the Broncos on the board, round 1. We're giving them Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas. He's a speedster that's going to stretch the field. And Denver is now, Bo Nix has a wide receiver now to stretch the field. Sean Payton and him had a little skiff this past weekend on the sidelines. I don't know, man. If I was Sean Payton, I would not allow that, man. You're the head coach and you're a rookie quarterback. You better shut your mouth and do what you're told. Do you think Jimmy Johnson would have took that the same way? You think Bill Parcells, who I hate, would have took it the same way? And I know with the new softer generation, we can't yell at these kids. They need safe zones. F you, bro. When you're making millions and we're playing a game, you better listen to what the coach says. 23, the Dallas Cowboys select defensive tackle Mason Graham. The fact that this kid lasted this long was crazy. He's not the typical Michigan defensive tackle. Anybody just wants to watch Saturday's game versus it might have been, was it Saturday or was it Friday? It might have been Friday night, I believe. I don't know. It was Michigan and Oregon. And bro, he was going back and forth, playing 3 tech, 1 tech, back and forth. He can play whatever you want. And this kid has violent hands. He's super strong. He jacks his offensive lineman up, gets rid of him, and he has very quick lateral speed. And I'll still say it again, for the last 2 years in a row. So this is his third year. So this is for the third year in a row, he has been the best defensive tackle on Michigan's team. And I challenge anyone to debate me on that. All these so-called draft experts. Get out of here, bro. The Buccaneers, man. They're playing good. We can't say they're not. It's crazy. It seems like, these quarterbacks go to certain, but just shows you how quarterbacks can fall apart in certain organizations and then thrive in others. So that's why, they say one man's garbage is another man's treasure. But at 24, the Buccaneers get Deone Walker, Kentucky, 6'6", 330. Yo, yeah, he's just a straight 0 tech. Don't expect anything out of the passing game out of him. You put him in Vita Vea. You put him next to Vita Vea in case no one's running on you. Nobody. Or unless maybe they want to get out of Vita Vea's contract because he's getting a little bit older. He could be Vita Vea's replacement. But you put him next to Vita Vea, and that's no one's running up the middle on Tampa. I can tell you that much. The Bills got Evan Stewart, wide receiver, Oregon. Keon Coleman's going on. He's progressing. And who did I comp him to? Does anyone remember who I comped Keon Coleman from Florida State to? I comped him to Anquan Bolden. Yet no one loved him, bro. No one loved him. I did. But wide receivers are far from my strength, and I'll admit it. I know my weaknesses, I know my strengths, but I had Keon Coleman. He would go up. People said, oh, he didn't get separation. He couldn't get separation. I didn't see Anquan Bolden get a lot of separation from people, but he went up and he got that ball. And that's who I comped Keon Coleman to. So now he gets more help with the Bills with Evan Stewart out of Oregon. Dun, dun, dun. 26. The Ravens are on the board. Ravens, I think they're weak. They have a weakness at right tackle. So we're gonna flip flop Arante Isiah, University of Minnesota's left tackle, 6'6", 330. He played left tackle at the University of Minnesota. We're gonna flip flop him, and we're gonna put him at right tackle. And the Ravens are gonna continue to play conservative, smash mouth football, and I'm sure they're gonna have Travis Henry next year and Lamar Jackson, and they're just gonna mash people up front. 27, the Falcons are going to give you Harold Perkins with an asterisk. I know the kid hurt his knee, but he's probably still going to come out anyway. Do I like him? Absolutely not. Would I touch him? Absolutely not. He's 210 pounds from LSU. How has the last few linebackers from LSU come out? How have they looked in the NFL? And I get it. You don't judge the player. You don't judge the helmet. You judge the player. But when I see a 210-pound linebacker, he's not a linebacker to me. He's a safety. And I Harold Perkins, so I give him to Atlanta. 28, the Lions. They just want to beat you up and mash you up. And they need to get a little bit better along their defensive line, the interior of their defensive line. If Deone Walker gets close to them, they will trade up. Remember this video. They will trade up and try to get someone, flip-flop somebody, and get in front of them. If he falls, they will try to get in front of some teams to get to Deone Walker. But we didn't do any trades this draft. So Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan, fell to the Detroit Lions. And we all know Detroit, Dan Campbell, former Giant, former Cowboys. He's all about the trenches. And that's the way you should be, because you win and you lose up front. Number 29, the Washington, let's just say the Redskins. And I hate Dan Quinn, but he loves his safeties, and we're giving him Malachi Starks from Georgia. Kid can make any play on the field. He's super athletic. He can come up and lay the pipe. He just might. The only thing I would think is he doesn't have that giant 6'3", 6'4", prototypical stalk size that Dan Quinn likes at safety, which I don't. I don't really like my safeties to be 6'4". Give me a 6'2", 230-pound safety, and who can come up and just level people, and I'm happy. At 30, I need to drink something because my voice is losing. Yeah, for the people that pay attention, sugar-free cranberry juice. 30, Texans, second running back going off the board. For the Texans at number 30, Quinshon Judkins. Bro, Ohio State has two beast running backs, and this kid can fly. He's a transfer from Ole Miss, and if you look at his Ole Miss tape and his Ohio State tape, he's going to be dangerous in the NFL. 31, we got the Chiefs on the board with Taylor Swift. She's just gonna come down, let everybody get halftime, smell a thong, and Kansas City will probably win the Super Bowl again. But I didn't make this draft order, so don't yell at me. They're picking 31. They're picking Jonah Salavia. He's an offensive lineman from Arizona. My opinion, the kid can play guard and tackle. So he has guard and tackle flexibility. If the Chiefs, the Chiefs have to protect their investment in Patrick Mahomes. If the Chiefs don't go offensive lineman at 31, you can see them maybe going for a running back or a wide receiver, but you can get a running back in round 2, round 3, round 4. Next kid, 32. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger, bro. I didn't make this draft order. The Vikings. They got the Vikings winning the Super Bowl, which I would say no. Shannon Revell Jr., cornerback out of East Carolina with an asterisk. He tore his knee, and that sucks when you have a senior that tears his knee. But to get him you could probably get him much, much later in round 2, or NCAA might grant him another year of eligibility. We don't know yet. It's too early. Now, start of the second round, and one trend you're going to notice in the second round, you're going to see a lot of running backs coming off the board. So with pick number 33, the Bengals pick Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State. He hasn't been blowing up yet like he had last year, but Oklahoma State's offensive line is not the greatest, and I think scouts are going to go more. He could be, he's been nicked up a bit, but you're going to go more by his 2023 tape. And just because his 2024 tape is not as great as his 2023, you're not going to discard this kid until like the third day of the draft. Come on, people. Let's be serious. 34, the Jaguars. We're getting Trevor Lawrence some help. We're getting him Ty Felton, wide receiver out of Maryland. And actually, he's a wide receiver number 2 at Maryland. Kayvon Prather, I think his name is. I gave you him already. He's Maryland's number 1. But this kid, Ty Felton from Maryland, he's their wide receiver 2, and he's putting up some serious numbers. At 35, what's the trend? We see another running back. The Browns, Omarion Hampton, North Carolina. He also he could go a little later than this because he's not having as good a year as he had in 2023. 2023, he had I think 15 touchdowns and 1,600 yards in 2023. And out of the 1,600 yards, 700 to 800 yards was after contact. So he's not having as good a year as he had last year, but you have to look between the lines. Why? Is there no passing game? So now all they got to do is just key on them. Is the offensive line, is it loaded with injuries? Is its offensive line just suck compared to last year? You have to look deeper, and they're not going to just take his past film and discard him for that. 36, we got the Panthers picking Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Most likely, they would flip him over to probably right tackle at first for for the Panthers, because they need someone to protect. They have the kid Ike Akwamu from I don't know, but I thought he was a better run blocker than pass blocker from NC State when he came out a few years ago, but that's just me. But I see Josh Simmons probably sliding over to the right side, even if he has to play guard for a year. But his eventual position is right tackle. At 37, the Bears were giving Caleb Williams a weapon. Luke Lachey. He's no doubt, in my opinion, a top 5 tight end. Great size. He can do it all. He just plays in a Iowa had a very conservative offense, but now they've opened it up a bit, and the kid has the size, has the strength, and he can be a good weapon on the next level. And when you're a young quarterback and you're not certain of yourself, your tight end is your best friend. So we're giving Caleb Williams, Luke Lachey, tight end out of Iowa. 38, we got the Patriots. We got them Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Big, young, good size, stretching the field. And but let's be honest, man, the Patriots, you can throw a dart at a dartboard. They need so many positions. It's ridiculous. They need to really if they have a top 10 pick, top 5 pick, they really need to trade back and get multiple picks, because it's safe to say they're not one player. They're not 2 players away. They're 5 players away. They're a long way from being a competitive team. Next kid, great value at 39. The Tennessee Titans pick up Walter Nolan, 3-tech, Ole Miss. I think he has a little bit of 1 in him, but he'll be mostly 3. But like I said, he's a few Thanksgiving turkey meals away from being a 1. But I think kind of like a Mason Graham, he can go back and forth on each particular play. It all depends. But getting him at 39 is great value. Once again, we got the Jets on the board, and their offensive line situation is atrocious. It is atrocious. Morgan Moses is bro, he helped Moses part the seas. How about that? He's so old. So with the Jets, I gave him Tyler Booker, who can play tackle and guard from Alabama. The autumn wind is a Raider. The Raiders are on the board at 41, and you got Crime Lacey, wide receiver out of LSU. The kid is a speedster, 6'1", 190, has over 500 yards, 5 touchdowns already, and the Raiders need a wide receiver. You're most likely going to see Devontae Adams get traded, and you're going to go wide receiver. And we all know the Raiders love speed. 42, great value too. Cardinals, they added another Buckeye to the team. Trevion Henderson. The kid's just been a touchdown machine for the Ohio State Buckeyes for the last couple of years, and he's great value in round 2. But like I said, what have you noticed the round 2 trend of all these a lot of running backs starting to come off the board? 43, great value, man. I got the Colts. This is tremendous value. I got the Colts taking Kelvin Winston Jr., safety out of Penn State. And in my opinion, the only reason he went this low in this particular draft is because he's been injured. and we don't know the severity of the injury. They're keeping it hush-hush. We don't even know if we're going to see him again this year, and they could redshirt him. He could be late first round of this kid by far. Bro, great run defender, not afraid to come up and lay the pipe at all. So that's tremendous value at 43 for the Colts. At 44, Greg Kittle's getting up there in age. We all know Purdy does not have an arm, a rocket arm. So what does it make scenario of? Let's give him one of the best, could be number one tight end, Tyler Warren out of Penn State, 6'6", 260. Yo, these three, Loveland, Tyler Warren, and who's the other kid I gave you earlier? Luke Lachey. These kids, I'm going to be honest with you, they are pretty much interchangeable. I think Tyler Warren is the better run blocker. Luke Lachey would be number 2 run blocker, and Colston Loveland would probably be the 3rd best run blocker. As a pure wide receiver, I think Colston Loveland would be number 1. Number 2 would be Tyler Warren, and number 3 would be Lachey. But this is very early, and that's just my rankings now. But what I'm getting at is they're very interchangeable, and it's all going to come down to what team is on the board, what coaches and scouts are looking for. But they're very, very similar to me. 45, we got Big Blue. I hate the Giants with a passion, but they need a running back, man. They have no running back whatsoever. So I gave them Big Mauler, Khalil Mullings out of Michigan. Bro, the kid's like 6'1", 220, man. And we all have known, listen, man, I'm in my mid-50s, man. I know I look like I'm like 21, but I'm in my mid-50s. In all my years, I think the Giants have had like 2 small running backs. They had Tiki Barber. They had Dave Meggett, Joe Morris. I'm showing my age, people. Besides that, Giants have always had a big running back, or like the big running back. I mean, Brandon Jacobs was like 6'4", 270. Then they drafted a few other big running backs that did not pan out. The Ron Danes of the world. Who's the big kid they drafted out of Michigan? I can't think. I'm going back 30 years trying to think, man. They drafted a monster out of Michigan. I just can't think of his name, but it's legit 30 years ago. So the Giants like big running backs because they're playing in the cold weather, in the windy weather, and we all know you cannot pass in the Giant Jet Stadium late season. It's very, very hard. It's weird, bro. It's a weird layout out there. Like, I used to work out there as a kid. I used to do security for the Giants and the Jets when I was a kid. And you can be standing at one part of the stadium and literally have like a T-shirt on and maybe a thermal. And you could be standing on the opposite side of the stadium and you're dressed like you're dressed like you're in a blizzard. That's how windy the Meadowlands is out there. You got to realize, I know it's New Jersey. It's nothing but flat. It's the swamps out there. How many bodies are buried out there? But it's all flat, so it's so windy. That's another reason why the Giants prefer a bigger running back. So they got Khalil Mullings out of Michigan. We got now the Dolphins back on the board. So we gave the Dolphins a quarterback in the first round. Now we need someone to protect them. The offensive line, are they gonna keep Armstead for a second year? Don't know. I gave him Josh Cornley, offensive tackle out of Oregon. Kid can play left, kid can play right tackle, but he has flexibility. 47, I gave the Saints Jalen Walker, linebacker, Georgia. Ironically, this is like, it all depends what you consider Abdul Carter, a linebacker or an edge, and what you consider Perkins, who I consider Perkins to be a safety, but it's taken to like 47 to see the 3rd linebacker taken off the board. 48, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. Ugh. Gabe, I'm just playing games. I joke around a lot. If you can't take it, go off yourself, man. Gave him a good linebacker, Danny Stutzman, linebacker at Oklahoma, because I don't think the experiment of Jimmy Dean, Nakobe Dean, let's talk about Nakobe Dean, who all the so-called draft experts, the so-called offensive line experts, the fun bunch thought Nakobe Dean was going to be the next Mike Singletary. Bro, the kid's a walking injury. He's playing behind. And what's the excuse? He's playing behind his entire defensive line that he had in Georgia. He's too small, people. But what do I know? Who's laughing now? So I gave you Danny Stutzman, linebacker out of Oklahoma. The kid's like 6'4", 250, and he'll be able to play a much, much more physical type of game in Philadelphia. Excuse me. 49, we got Green Bay on the board. Typical Green Bay pick, blue collar kind of kid who'll bring his lunch pail to work. Jack Sawyer, edge out of Ohio State. He's going to come to work every day. He's relentless against the run, relentless against the pass, and he's going to help Green Bay's defense, where earlier we helped out their offense. Number 50 is the Bears. They have 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. I gave him Tyreek Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State. And the only reason this kid went this late is because he's been injured and he only played his first game this past Saturday against Iowa. But if this kid continues to blow up, he can be a lot much earlier pick. 50, the Chargers need some wide receivers, man. Who was the kid that they took that I wasn't a fan of at all? The wide receiver, they took Johnson or something. He might have been from TCU, or I forgot. It was like 2 years ago. The kid's a bust. He hasn't done nothing. So we gave the Chargers Savion Williams, wide receiver, ironically out of TCU. What do I tell you about all these What do I tell you about all these Big 12 wide receivers? Quentin Johnson, thank you. What has Quentin Johnson done in the NFL? Nothing. When he got drafted, he's like, Mama, I'm buying you a house, which is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. And then he just drops everything. So we're giving the Chargers a wide receiver, but ironically, he's from TCU also. Next is the Seahawks. We're giving the rich get richer. We're giving him Caden Prather, wide receiver, Maryland. He's actually their wide receiver 1, and earlier I put their wide receiver 2 ahead of him. But he has good size, very good production, and we're only like 5 seasons into the game. You'll see both Maryland wide receivers go probably before round 3. Honestly, what are we noticing now? Again, people, follow me. Denver's on the board. Denver just drafted Jaden Ott, running back, California. Round 2 is where you're going to start to see all the running backs come flying off the board, because the running back position, in my opinion, is very, very deep this year. Very, very deep. There's no reason to take one in round 1 unless you're at the end of round 1 and you know you're not going to get him when it swings back around in round 2. 54, we got the Dallas Cowboys on the clock, and I give them another run. I give them a running back because Dallas Cowboys have no running back. They probably have probably the worst running back rooms in the NFL. And I gave Dallas Cowboys Nick Singleton from Penn State. The kid is a bruiser, a monster. And Penn State even has another bruiser, Katron Allen. He didn't go yet in this 2-round mock draft. But Nick Singleton can come out of the backfield, catch the ball. He can beat you to the corner. He can run your ass over. Nick Singleton can do everything. And if I could get Nick Singleton at 54 as a Dallas fan, I would be doing backflips. 55, the Bucks helping out their defensive line more. They took Deion Walker from Kentucky in round 1. Round 2 at 55, they're taking JT Tuimoloau, edge, Ohio State. I think JT Tuimoloau is a much better run defender than a pass rusher. But for the last 2 years in a row, he destroyed Olu Fashanu, and he can get to the quarterback. I also can see him going to a 3-4 team and him playing a 5 tech. I can see that also too. I could see him going to a Pittsburgh. I could see him going to a Baltimore, JT Tuimoloau. At 56, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the board, and they take a hometown kid, Drew Aller. I am not a fan of Drew Aller. This is what I don't understand about Penn State fans. I like legit. I like 7 dudes on their team. Legit, I like 7 guys on Penn State's teams. But I say one thing bad about Drew Aller, and they all want to chop my head off. I mean, go ahead. My door is wide open. You're welcome to try it. It would be fun because I would take my 100-pound dog and put him in the bathroom and still say, come on in. The door's open. I'll leave the light on for you. But it's I love 7 people on Penn State's team, and yet I badmouth the quarterback, and they all hate me. Listen, bro, I say the truth even when I lie. His deep ball sucks. Could he go to Penn State? Could he go to Pittsburgh and they try get it better? Yeah. And then people saying, oh, but he's averaging 18 yards per pass. He's barely throwing any passes. Your best wide receiver is your tight end, Tyler Warman. You don't have a number 1 wide receiver. Drew Aller, listen, he has A to Z. The wrestling fans would know that. Who's the A to the Z guys? I would be considered one of them. That's a wrestling quote you probably get from shoot videos. Who's A to the Z? I'm joking, kind of. But he has all the measurables you want in a quarterback, but he does not have a deep ball. And I think he's going to get eaten alive, or he's going to get his wide receivers killed in the NFL. Drew Aller. If his deep ball, if he can start working with a quarterback specialist, because look at Sam Darnold. Look how long it's taken Sam Darnold to finally get good. So he has all the tools. I never said he didn't. If he can just improve his deep ball, he will have the total package. And don't say I never said that. Next, I think, is great value, man, especially if you're going to keep who the Falcons quarterback? Kirk Cousins, man, who's 90 years old. It's made $500 million. At 58, the Atlanta Falcons take Wyatt Mullins, who offensive tackle, West Virginia, who's on his 3rd year and hasn't allowed a sack yet. To get him at 58 is incredible value. And I gave you Wyatt Mullins, West Virginia, in May, people. I gave you him in May as one of my top 10 offensive tackles. Everyone's jumping on a bandwagon now. Where were you in May? The Bills, they got old man Ray Davis, who's good. I like him a lot, but he's only gonna, you're not getting more than 4. You're gonna get 1 contract out of him already. He's either 25 or 26 right now. He'll be 29 when his first contract is up, and you're going to be done with him. So I gave the Bills at 59 R.J. Harvey, University of Central Florida. He had 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns last year, and he already has 500 yards and I believe 5-6 touchdowns already this year. He's a sleeper from the University of Central Florida, R.J. Harvey Jr. Next, we got the Lions. What do the Lions love to do? Play defense and mash you. I gave him very, very big linebacker Landon Barton out of Utah. The kid's 6'4", 260. You put him next to Dan Campbell, who I don't know, who can go back to the Dan Campbell years and look at everybody else's everyone else's shows, I would call back and I would say, yeah, Dan Campbell, Iowa was the number one linebacker coming out of this draft, and people laughed at me. And look what Dan Campbell's doing now in Detroit. Everyone said Dan Campbell's too big. And I was the one who said N'Kobe Dean, but I called him Jimmy Dean, is too small and an injury risk. How's Dan Campbell? Jack Campbell, I think it is. I think it's Jack Campbell, linebacker, Iowa. How's he been playing for the Lions for the last couple of years? Now you put Landon, but now you also have Malcolm Rodriguez, and now you put Landon Barton on that team, and you also in round one added a defensive tackle, Kenneth Gant from Michigan. Detroit has a young team. They're going to be scary for years to come. Detroit's going to be good as long as they keep. I mean, the quarterback, in my opinion, the coach does have to start making a little bit better decisions. 61, we got the Texans. Listen, man, Diggs ain't going to be around for much, much longer. How much more before we start screaming at C.J. Stroud because he's not getting the ball enough? So I gave them Antoine Wells Jr., wide receiver out of Old Mississippi. The kid has the size, the speed, to stretch the field. We all know Nico Collins is their wide receiver one. And, I mean, last year, even Diggs would disappear for 3-4 games at a time. So I think you would probably get rid of Diggs next year, and Antoine Wells would be your wide receiver too. 62. If this kid falls this far to the Redskins, it would be criminal too, because I hate Dan Quinn. I hate Dan Quinn with a passion. Princely Human Area, Edge, Mississippi. Kid's 6'5", 250. He might even be 6'6". He has crazy prototypical NFL 4'3" size. You know, he's not like a 6'2", 240-pound Micah Parsons that's gonna, wear down on you. This kid has the size and the strength to stop the run. And right now, Washington's strength is on the interior, is their defensive tackles. And if Washington gets some edges, the NFC East is going to be in trouble, man. Plus some linebackers, because the Redskins got 2 sick defensive tackles. 63 is the Chiefs. They're probably going to win it again, but like I said, don't shoot the messenger, man. Like, they got them losing. First round, Chiefs went Salavia, who could play guard or tackle. And round 2, we don't know how Isaiah Pacheco is going to be coming back, but it is a running back by committee league, so I gave him Devin Neal, running back out of Kansas. Like I said, people, this running back class is crazy deep. It's crazy deep. So Devin Neal out of Kansas, he's on the bigger side. He's like about 6'1", 210, and he can fly with the ball, and he's going to help out Patrick Mahomes. And I'm sure once he gets a good sniff of Swifty's thong, he'll give him that extra energy, and he'll be out there, getting some extra touchdowns. Because we all know when they're hurt, they got it like in a bottle of Gatorade, and boom, they're ready to go. That's what they did at halftime last year versus San Fran. Last kid, the Bills. I can't see this, but Bills picking last at 64. We'll give it a linebacker, Barrett Carter out of Clemson. Could have came out last year, but he had more eligibility. And what would you rather do? Would you rather go to the NFL, blow your knee out, or stay in college, get that NIL bag and bag cheerleaders at the same time? Can you blame him? So I see Barrett Carter going the last pick of 64. So today, people, mock draft Mondays. We did a 2-round, all 32 teams in the NFL. Like I said when I started my channel, this is a draft channel for all 32 NFL teams. I just happen to be a Dallas Cowboy fan. If you are a Dallas Cowboy fan, We got Mason, Grahm, and everything's listed down below. The draft order is listed down in the notes, so you'll be able to. So if you don't want to watch the whole thing, but still click on it. I mean, click on it, like and subscribe. But I spoke about everybody, and then I listed everybody. But if you are a Dallas fan, we got Mason Grahm, defensive tackle out of Michigan, in the first round. And in round 2, I just want to make a double check on that. Round 2, yes, we got Mason Grahm, and then defensive tackle Michigan, who the kid's a monster, and he's been the best defensive tackle on Michigan the last 3 years, and I challenge anyone to debate me on that. And then in round 2, we got Nick Singleton, who's a monster. He's a beast out of Penn State, and I know the Penn State running back curse. I get it, but it has to end sometime, and Junkins was off the board already, so we got Singleton. But running back is super deep. So let's see. I dropped 6 players earlier for you. We're at, I think, I don't even know, I have it listed. I think we're at 321 players I've dropped already. And then we did a 2-round, 32-team mock draft. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about 5 more up-and-comers for this draft season. And like I said, it's still too early. I don't want to be bashing people. I'll wait a while until I start bashing people. Wednesday, it's up in the air if we're going to get anything. Thursday, we'll start talking too. Tomorrow night, there's a college game. There's a good college game tomorrow night. Liberty's playing. There's college games Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. But, yo, this is where you find your small school prospects. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. And these are the gems that I can find that other guys can't. Because we all know when you're rocking with GWO, it's for life. Jar Jar Binks, thanks for jumping in the chat. Over and out.